from the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you're with us. We are talking about a problem that a lot of people deal with, online scams. How can you avoid these scams? Have you been impacted by one lately? And almost all of us know someone who has. We have a loved one who has been scammed, and people are reluctant to talk about it. But this is happening all the time, and we want to talk about it tonight. What can you look for? And I encourage you to call in with something that may have happened to you or a loved one, and you can kind of help us walk other people through how maybe that could have been avoided. So happy to have with us Ann Ward. She is CEO of CircleClick Media. She's joining us via Zoom from Austin, Texas. So Ann, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on your show tonight.
Well, you're welcome. All right, let's talk about this. Online scams. Are we seeing more of them? I feel like I've done this topic several times and we see them a lot, but where are we right now?
Well, I'd say the pandemic was not great for a lot of people, but for scammers, business was good. Because people spending more time online, doing more business online, learning online, has basically given scammers a bit more fodder than they ever had before, because, you know, we're sitting ducks here at home. Those of us are not aware. So I would say that by the numbers, it's probably one of the most successful businesses right now is to be an online scammer.
Who is their target? Who are they most targeting?
So, you know, in what I deal with day to day, because I work in crypto, I work with Web3 companies, I would say they're a pretty ripe target because the money is all online. I would say people who do online banking, use credit cards. I mean, basically any warm body at this point is a scam. But I would say they do prey on those folks that might be considered a little more vulnerable, you know, mentally handicapped individuals, very young individuals, or much older individuals, you know, who may not be as tech savvy statistically. But generally, anybody who's spending money online should assume that they're going to be a target of a scam at some point.
Anybody spending money online should assume they're going to be target of a scam. How are they getting our numbers? How do they know to call us?
Well, all of our information, anything you share online to some degree is public, or could potentially be public. I mean, we've seen data breaches from every major credit card company, credit agencies, you know, large centralized repositories of information have been opened up to some degree, social security numbers, these sorts of things. I wouldn't, you know, spend my life being scared, but the idea is to just be aware. You really want to think before you put a credit card number in. You want to check. But there are definitely some common things that can happen that people can look out for. And all right, let's talk about it. I'm encouraging people to call in with their stories. You know, if they had a loved one or they themselves encountered one of these scams. What are some of the more popular ones that you have seen? Some of the bigger ones. Well, let's walk through a couple. Sure. So, like, one I think that is really sort of classic is the IRS scam that's very popular around tax time. You know, I think it's probably one of the more common ones. People calling, claiming to be the IRS. So they'll say that you have a payment overdue or there was some sort of enforcement. You know, they really like to scare you and get you to give them money. I actually had one that made me stop for a second. I was so close to falling. This is the one I feel that came the closest to falling for, was a phone company. So they called my cell phone and it came up as Austin Energy. The caller ID was spoofed. So that's something to know, is that caller ID can be spoofed. So, you know, you can choose what you want your name to be in your caller ID, so can scammers, right? So I got a call from Austin Energy saying that my bill was overdue and that I needed to give the money. And it was very convincing. And I said, no, I think I'm going to check online.
Yeah.
And so I looked, because I knew I was on auto pay. And so sure enough, it was fine. And then I looked it up. I looked up the phone number. So that's something really easy to do if you get a call that something doesn't sound quite right. The way that they trap a lot of people is that they create a false sense of emergency and they rush you because when you're panicking, you're not thinking, you're reacting, right? And so I was like, okay, thank you for this information, hung up. And then I looked it up. So just the simple act of, well, let me call you back can prevent quite a bit, because once you get caught in that moment, anybody can fall prey to these people. They are so convincing. Another popular one is to get someone convinced that their identity's been stolen, so you need to move your money.
That's terrible.
This happened to a member of my family, and he is autistic, and so he just didn't have that part in his nature to question that someone might be lying. He hasn't really had to deal with a lot of people in the public, so he really wasn't aware that this could be untrue. And so they convinced him that he was, subject of identity fraud and in a CIA scam or FBI scam, and that he needed to move all of his money to gift cards.
Yeah.
So if anybody is pushing you and saying you've got to go put money in gift cards, there's never going to be a business reason for that. So fortunately, he didn't get to that point because he came to us. He knew enough to come to us, and we were like, no, I guarantee you that's not how governmental agencies are going to contact you through mail. They're not going to contact you through U.S. mail. They're not going to contact you through email or phone generally. So getting someone to buy gift cards is another really popular one because, they have a hard luck story and then they want to get the serial numbers or the registration numbers from the cards, and then it's essentially cash to them and it's not traceable. So.
Wow, that's very interesting. Those are great. And what about one, have you heard of one, I think they get the information off Facebook, but they call maybe a grandparent and they say that they are the grandkid, and they live out of state and they need bail money, but don't call my parents, I made a mistake, send the bail money and help me out here. And they get a lot of that information, I think, from Facebook. I mean, they understand, okay, so-and-so is the grandson of this person and the parents live in this state and they might be inclined to help out little Johnny if little Johnny called and said he was in trouble and needed help, but don't tell anybody. Have you heard of scams like that?
Absolutely. That is a key thing that these people prey on, is that they scare you into stopping just your normal thought process. They don't want you, if someone tells you, you can't tell anyone else. They said that to my relative. They said, you'll get in worse trouble if you tell anyone. And so that's a trick to scare you and isolate you, because they know that if you talk to someone in your family, that you're going to be way more likely to not, fall for what they're going for. So I think that's a really common scam that people don't realize is out there, and that so much information is out there available to them. Another really easy one to fall for that I've known so many tech people, founders of startups who've fallen for this one, is you search for a company's phone number, for example. So let's say you want to cancel service and you don't want to do it online. You call in. If you Google a phone number for a business and you get an ad at the top, so on the top of Google search results, there's ads. Well, oftentimes those ads are attached to scams.
Really?
Because
that's terrible.
Someone in my network was on a dating service and wanted to cancel, but had problems getting it for some reason to stick and wanted to talk to a live person. They searched for that service's name for support phone number, got another company that answered saying they were that company, and then got her to share all sorts of information with them over the phone, and then got to the point where they started asking her to install apps on her phone. And that's when she said, wait a minute, why are you having me put something financial on my phone for this? But yeah, getting asked to install apps or software on your phone that you don't need, is another way they have access to your financial data. So anybody can advertise in Google or Yahoo or any of the search engines. And so if you click on an ad, know that there's a good chance that may not be who you're actually looking for. So you want to scroll down to the organic results. And those are much more likely to be the right phone number.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I could see how people would fall for that.
Very easy to fall for it. Like I had a window smashed in my car not that long ago, and I looked up the company because I needed to change the time of the appointment. I thought, oh, calling will be easier. And I called and I got their competitor. I fell I fell for it. I called and it was harmless. It was just a competitor trying to get business off of their name, but you can get that too. It's the Wild West online. Anybody can advertise, and it doesn't mean that their intentions are good.
Well, so this sets the table. This sets the table for our discussion, and we're going to continue this discussion about scams. I encourage you to call in. There's the number 615-737+, 615-737-7587. If you or a loved one, you're aware of something like this, share it with us. We can talk about it and maybe help somebody else out. We will take a break, come back, continue our discussion right after this.